Hi, welcome and welcome back. I hope you're doing well. One of my friends always likes to say, the more you pay, the more you pay attention. And I was thinking about this week, and I thought, wow, that really applies to what you experience when you go through narcissistic abuse. And sometimes it takes a few experiences for you to figure out who and what you've been dealing with and to be able to overcome those types of relationships and those types of individuals. That being said, there's a tuition that you pay in narcissistically abusive relationships, and you pay, and the narcissist pays as well. I thought of 5 ways that you pay tuition in narcissistically abusive relationships, and I thought of 5 ways that the narcissist pays tuition in choosing to engage in narcissistically abusive behavior with you. So, one way, and this is probably one of the biggest ones, that you pay tuition is with your time. Narcissists waste a lot of your time, and I'm sure that you can probably think of all of the things that you could have or should have or would have been doing had you not been dealing with the narcissist for as long as you were dealing with them. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. And some people, like say in the case of my parents who were married for 30 years, it took a while before my mom really cut it off. And I know for me, I've dealt with narcissists for even several years. I shared about a female grandiose narcissist that I dealt with for several years. And then finally, when I learned about narcissistic abuse, I figured out, oh, okay, I see what's happening now. And I had to cut her off. And I've experienced everything in between. Obviously, I've dealt with family members, and I dealt with my dad's abuse for a long time before I finally figured him out. But even once I figured out what I was dealing with, he had been dead for a number of years. Your time is probably one of the biggest tuition payments that you make in a narcissistically abusive relationship. And the other way that I thought of is your money. You might have invested in the narcissist. I know my dad used to hit us up all the time for money. I've purchased gifts for narcissistic friends or acquaintances that I didn't know what I was dealing with and didn't find out until later, and went to numerous birthday parties or numerous events that they had thrown and presented them with gifts. Even went to a wedding reception for one and gave a gift. And it didn't hit me until after I learned about narcissistic abuse, like, wait a minute, like, okay, this is really one-sided, and I never even got a thank you. Another way that you pay tuition is relationships. And what I mean by this is you may have to cut some people off and out of your life, and that's okay, but that's a price that you pay when you're dealing with narcissistically abusive relationships, is just cutting off those relationships. There may be someone, say for example, if it's a work situation, you may be acquainted with someone who is also acquainted with a narcissist on your job, for example, and you, in your determination to distance yourself, you may also need to cut off that other person. And it happens. You may lose opportunities. The time that you've spent dealing with the narcissist, you could have done some other things. You may have had the opportunity to be in a different relationship, or you may have had another professional opportunity that you could have benefited from, or just time to better yourself or study or cultivate other talents or skills to be able to go on and do greater things with that. You may pay tuition in terms of your health and well-being. Narcissists can be very stressful to deal with. They're very toxic individuals, and they plant a lot of negative seeds. They always have some drama or some problems or complaints. They love to gossip about other people, and they can drag you into that or plant seeds of doubt in you about other people that are perfectly fine to deal with, but they want to project all of their toxicity and their behavior onto others so that they can pull you in closer to them and then further barf all of their toxicity onto you. And they may also try to stress you out or make you fearful of certain things or foods or people or situations or places when you don't need to be. One way that narcissists can pay the price for their toxic behavior is imprisonment. They may literally be imprisoned, like the alleged murderer who has been sitting in jail for the past 3 years plus and will never get out. And they may also have a history of fraud, in which case they may have been in and out of the system in that way. They also suffer imprisonment in their minds. And this is a huge one because it's that toxic thinking and their toxic programming, the dark thoughts, the evil thoughts, the just impurity, the constant scheming to con, plot, lie, manipulate other people. Narcissists have a lot of negative thoughts about themselves, which they'll project onto you, but they live with that 24/7. And that's a form of imprisonment. The narcissist ends up being a spectator a lot of times, and that's part of their tuition that they pay. They're constantly on the outside looking in at other people that they've tried to manipulate, scam, con, torture, whatever. The other way that narcissists pay tuition is with their health. And I'm talking mind, body, and spirit. Narcissists are constantly having to marinate in those toxic thoughts. They've got a lot of cortisol and adrenaline that they're bathing in mentally and physically, just in general. And that's not healthy, and it can lead to other health issues, whether it's cardiac issues or if it's insulin resistance. They've got a lot of mental stuff going on that is unhealthy and toxic for them, that can affect their whole body. And with that, they suffer a lot in their bodies. They may be addicts. They may be abusing drugs. We're talking crack, we're talking meth, Adderall even, and things that do damage over the long haul to their body. And if they're fixated and focused on manipulating and scheming and scamming and conning or lying to or cheating on you, then they're gonna end up paying a price one way or the other. There's a lot of anxiety and stress that goes along with that kind of lifestyle, as well as the addictions. They're addicted to porn, they're addicted to sex, they're constantly having to self-soothe and medicate with things like the drugs, alcohol even, which does a lot of damage to the body, and also sex, a lot of STDs. Narcissists are notorious for having tons of STDs, and they're not very discerning about their partners or about their safety or health and well-being when they're trying to self-soothe and get that fix. And finally, spiritually, they suffer a lot. They pay a lot of tuition that way. When you're building a life of toxicity like that, with every block, you are suppressing and really you're hurting yourself and downgrading yourself spiritually. You have to really sear your conscience and really suppress a lot of spiritual prompts to live that way, to live a life that's based on lies and doing harm to other people intentionally to make yourself feel better. Also, narcissists pay tuition with relationships. They burn a lot of bridges. A lot of their pals and acquaintances that they've known or hung around or hang out with don't even want to deal with them. They get to a point where they are no longer welcome at family events. Their family members don't want to have anything to do with them. No one wants to take care of them in their old age because of the harm that they've done, because of the toxicity, because people see over time their true colors and don't want to deal with them. And certainly as you build up your discernment, and you go no contact, then the narcissist is having to scramble to find other sources of supply and having to take what they can get. and they lose out on whatever you brought to the table. They wreck their marriages. They ruin their relationships with their children. And it just goes on until the narcissist passes away. And finally, the fifth way that I thought of that narcissists pay tuition is with the very thing that they do not want to deal with, and that's loneliness. Because they've destroyed relationships, ruined their health, pushed people away, refused to get help, refused to really face their shame, pain, trauma, they end up being alone. And it's just them and whatever condition that they're in health-wise, whatever's going on in their thought life, and whatever memories they have of what they used to have at one point and how far they've fallen. These were the things that my dad was complaining about at the end of his life, was just that he never thought that he would be in the position that he was in, and was just alone, and didn't want anyone near him because he was ashamed of where he was in his life and just how far he had fallen. Just the homelessness, the repeated failures in life, the burned bridges, the lost opportunities, and then having to just kind of lurk in the shadows and watch other people move forward and upward in their lives. At the end of the day, you have to look at your dealings with the narcissist as lessons, not losses, and get on with the business of healing yourself and moving onward and upward in your life. That's the healthiest thing that you can do for yourself, and let the narcissist deal with their issues. That's not your fault. It's not your problem, and you shouldn't be made to feel otherwise. Dealing with a narcissist and being subjected to narcissistic abuse can be costly. There are a lot of people who go to schools and pay a hefty tuition to go there, and they go on to do some pretty amazing things with their degrees. So that's my lesson for you for today, is to take your time with the narcissist as a lesson, not a loss, and go do something great with that degree. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. Know who you're dealing with, know who you are. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.